I'm Clint, and welcome to Swatches Livestream number 55. We're going to be taking a look at the Adventure Characters Finals that you, the viewers and patrons of the channel, have submitted in. We have about 25 of those. We'll be reviewing those, talking about what works, what doesn't, giving you a little professional feedback on the images that you have created. All right, just double checking that everything looks good on this side of the stream. Now we'll be jumping into this after a couple of minutes, have some announcements to go through. Then after that, we will get into the artwork. Now we're also going to be kicking off a new challenge because this is wrapping up the Adventure Characters Challenge, and we will start a new one. Now we have a new setup for how we're going to go about that. Let's cover that in the announcements. Everything's looked good on this side. OBS says we're not dropping any frames, so I think we can get started. I'll move that out of the way and then move over here. Okay, we already have some people in the chat. Thank you for joining in. Everyone who is joining in live and everybody who is watching this in recording, thank you for taking the time out of your day and making me part of your day. Tyler, thank you for joining in. Milos, Kayla, how's it going, everybody? Swatches, do you have a Discord? Yes and no. Swatches does have a Discord. I don't know if anybody's using it anymore. I'm rarely out there. So, yeah, I think there's a link on the Facebook page if you want to go out there. That's something we might have to breathe some new life back into, though. Okay, we will get to that in a moment. I just rebooted the computer, so I need to jump back over to opening my programs such as Photoshop. And take a look at my notes here. Let me adjust. Well, it is raining here, and I have the gain turned up so that all the rain isn't in the audio, but unfortunately that clips some of my audio out. Let me see if I can adjust it. No, I am. I have it literally maxed out. I'm just with the gain and trying to get the sound of the rain out. It gives me fewer options. Okay, yeah, that's from last week, I suppose. This is last week's stuff. We will put in the new information there in just a second. How is the audio? Audio better now? I turned it up, I turned down the gain. Sounds good? All right. There. And that's all good. Good. All right, well, I'll leave it there unless I get a lot of people saying that it's not understandable. Okay, announcement number 1 is Patreon delayed. Yeah, sorry guys, if you're keeping up, you'll see this on the Patreon page. I fully intended to get the last Patreon reward video out for this month, but there has just been delays with some of my commissions. I'd say delays. It's taken longer to do the commissions, or they're asking for changes, and so it's just pushing my timetable further and further out. And unfortunately, I can't get Patreon done this month. I always have to fulfill my commitments to my clients first, and then Patreon gets fit in around that. So it will be the same reward, it will be the same project, it's just going to be pushed to next month. It is the painting process, especially when you spell it right. It will be the painting process guide video where I go through the 10 different steps of painting an image, what to do at each stage, what to look for, questions you should be asking, the sort of answers you should be looking for, and how to get your original idea and try to carry it through the whole thing. So I have all the slides, images, text that goes along with it. That's all ready to go. I need to record it and edit it, which is 2 to 3 days of time to wrap that all up. Number 2, and then just to be clear, no one has been charged yet. No one has paid for this reward yet. So it's really just a real delay. It's just postponing until the next month. Number 2, tickets for next challenge. So we were brainstorming a couple of sessions ago about how to handle the art challenge. I love the fact that it's so popular, but it also comes with the issue of there's so many entries that I can't get through them all in a live stream without going over 3 hours, which is really more than anyone wants to sit down and watch, and it's more than I can really have the energy to get through. So we're trying to limit the number of entries, but still give everybody a chance to learn something and get some good, deeper feedback per image. So we'll be selling tickets. There will be a limited number of slots for the next challenge. You will be able to buy your slot in position in the next art challenge on Gumroad. That would be gumroad.com/swatches. It is not out there yet. I'll probably put it up tomorrow. And yeah, there will be 12 tickets as far as what I'm thinking right now. 6 for the US, 6 for international, in order to help with the time zone thing, that if they all become available at the same time, the people that are awake at that time will have advantage of finding a spot. I may also have wild card positions. So if somebody else wants to do the image, then you could upload it to a folder, and then I will randomly pick a person or two out of that folder in order to, have kind of a lottery system for other people to fill in an extra slot or two. We'll see about that. I'll release details on it. The tickets I'm thinking right now are 15, which is probably more than most people are thinking, but that covers the sketch and the finals live stream. And so that's like $7.50 per stream feedback. And this also allows me to put more time into each one and do a little more prep work on each one of them, so it is offsetting the amount of time that I'm putting into it. It is really like a mini version of the feedback that you would get at the $40 tier on Patreon. So if you want, one step towards that without committing to that full thing, then this was a good option. Full information of that will go out onto the Patreon and the Facebook group, so look for details there. Next challenge is the solemn, I'm not spelling it. That does not look right. Did I remember to put that folder in? Oh. I did. I wasn't sure if I remember to put that in there. To give you guys a heads up, the new challenge is right here. This is a kind of a classic illustration. It's not for a game, it's not character design. This is a full rendered scene going towards the realistic side. This is a classic painting style. It's not based on anything in particular. I just try to think of, EMN, sorry. Yeah, I'll change that when I get back to it. I spelled it right on this version. So I was just trying to think of a really good scene that would work good in anybody's portfolio that isn't, too much one thing or the other. So the description here is, this is a scene about a fateful meeting between two characters. It is a vertical image, 2,200 pixels wide, 3,000 tall. Depict the back of a foreground character giving an offering to the matron of the woods, who is a dryad queen. Dryads are creatures, they're like spirits of the wood. They're made of tree stuff. The environment should be a throne area of sorts. Sorry, I should have got some water. My throat's getting dried out. It is all nature with beautiful lighting. Perhaps the inside of a large hollow tree with light filtering down. The matron is feminine in appearance, but not completely human. She is made from tree materials. She should be regal and caring. Additional smaller dryads or nature spirits may be seen in the area around. The offering character and the offering is up to you. Consider the backstory and draw direction from that. Below is a list of 2 ideas. Feel free to use one of these or create your own. For example, the human and the forest have been at war and the peace has just been reached. The character is a king who is laying down a banner before the matron of the woods. Could be a wounded knight laying down their dying young sibling, trusting in the matron's healing powers. I will provide a PSD file when you purchase your ticket. It will have this outline in it. It will have some reference images in it, and it will have a PSD file template for your submission. This will have a block for you to put your image in, and it will have some blocks for you to put your reference images in for your different poses, for your lighting, for your, maybe your tree, whatever. I'll think of that and put that together tomorrow. And you will be required to fill in all of those with your reference images. I am going to step it up a little bit for these, so that will be part of it. You're going to be paying for this. It will also help me to give you better feedback. When you have references, you do a better job. When I have references to look at, then I do a better job. So this is going to be better for everybody. So that is it. It will be the same outline. You'll have 2 weeks for the sketch, and then we'll do a live stream then. I think you'll have 2 more weeks for the final, and we'll do a conclusion live stream at that point. Hey Clint, will we need to the Patreon as well as the tickets? No, we are shifting the challenge out of the Patreon. And there's a couple of reasons. One is it still doesn't limit how many people can enter. Even if I put it up the $20 level, then I could still have 40 people submit stuff. It doesn't limit the number. Number 2 is something like this month could happen again with Patreon, which is I get delayed and I don't process any payments for that month on Patreon. That means that I still put on the entire art challenge, but I didn't collect any payments for that challenge. And I need to separate Patreon's payment system away from the art challenge payment system now that we're kind of adopting one. So there you go. That is a new challenge, and you can be considering if you are interested in doing that or not. That's what it will be covering. Some reference images that I pulled together with some ideas is here. This will be provided to you. I might try to go find some more as well. This is a beautiful piece. Came across an art station. It is by this person's name that I don't know how to pronounce. I assume somewhere over in the Russia, Eastern Europe area. Absolutely beautiful piece. One of my favorite pieces I've come across recently. Is it this scene that you're doing? No. But it has that should have that sort of vibe to it. On the realistic side, a bit of a classical feeling to it. The woods, moss, and this sort of thing too. Maybe you have the matron of the woods, different other dryad creatures around her, person kneeling in the foreground offering something to them. This is a really nice scene. It has a bit more color than the other ones do. Again, a bit of a classic feel. This is really beautiful about a way to bring more color into an environment that is nature-based. So you want some beautiful lighting. That is a incredible way, very cinematic way, in order to bring lighting into a scene like that, using kind of a moss and sap an idea with the light backlighting it. Those would work well. This is just a really nice lighting setup. Maybe it's in a more open area. Maybe there's a waterfall coming down behind her. And you got this beautiful kind of angelic light coming down on the main character. Then the foreground character could be a bit more in shadow. These were all just little bits of each one of these have some excellent ideas. So that is the new challenge. Man, I really need some water. I don't think there is any in here. Oh well. $2,000. You guys are amazing. We reached 2,000 members on the Facebook Swatches group. Thank you. I never knew what Swatches would ever become. It is already larger than I ever anticipated that it would be. And you guys are very active, and it's not only that you're active and you're out there and you're being involved, but you're also very supportive. And I see you guys having really good critical eye and being very constructive with your feedback, and also having the good attitude of asking for feedback. It takes a certain amount of maturity as an artist to put a piece out in front of a group and say, can you give me some feedback? That's not an easy thing to do. And you guys keep doing it on a daily basis. And that's great. And I'll tell you what, the more you do that and the more you get that good feedback, you're going to be doubling the speed that you're going to be improving. So keep doing it. Great, great job, everybody. Thank you for being a part of it. And I don't have a link to this offhand, but so I reached the point where I could have a YouTube store and sell merch through the Teespring company. And I set up one item, which is the commissions poster, which I did not bring a copy of. So you will have to go look it up because I don't have a copy of it to show you right now. And it is a flow chart that I made about 2 years ago, retro looking, of what to do when you get a commission, and it's kind of artistic and it's practical. It shows you step by step what to do when you get a commission and how to handle different problems, and it has a bunch of notes added into it. It is 18 by 24 inches. I think it's $20 out on Teespring. So if you want to go out there and pick that up, then that goes right back to helping support the channel. And I put quite a bit of time into that. So hopefully you guys like it. It will look good on any studio wall or creative space. It's practical and it's kind of fun. So yeah, about half of that money goes back to the channel and about half of it goes to Teespring, which is a really good break actually for that sort of thing. Okay, that takes care of all of the announcements. So let's start taking a look at some artwork. And also, guys, of course, if you have comments or questions during the live stream and you are joining in live, then please feel free to put your comments in the live chat, and I will try to get to those during the program. Put swatches at the beginning of your comment so it will flag it for me and I can notice it easier. Okay. Character finals, yeah, we've got some references. Well, let's back up. I just want to open refs in case I have those already going. Still doing that thing. There we go. All right, first up is Amanda Green. All right, Amanda, let's see what we got here. Like I said last time, if you don't have time to do all of the characters, there were 3 characters. Oh, actually, let me back up. Totally neglected. If you are joining in, if you are joining in and you have not been familiar with this challenge, I need to show you what we're actually doing. There we go. So the challenge was to create 3 characters, 2 hero playable characters and 1 NPC enemy character. It is based on the Dungeons and Dragons idea, that sort of artwork, those sorts of characters. And we had a list of different characters that you could choose from: Elementalist, Hunter, Barbarian, Paladin, and Blade Mage. You needed to pick 2 of those. Then basic descriptions about what those look like. And then pick 1 of the enemies, either a Forest Troll, Goblin Scout, or a Minor Golem. Again, minor descriptions there. A couple of inspiration pieces down here. And we did the concepts last 2 weeks ago. Now we're looking at the finals. So, okay, Amanda. The Elementalist has a very nature vibe to it, and that's good. The one note I will make here that applies to quite a few people is something that is not that big of a deal for me and this particular challenge. It's more of, as you go forwards in your career, you'll come across this, so just be aware of it. If you're doing this for like Dungeons and Dragons and they request a blank background, what they likely need is that the character, in everything about the character, stands out from the background very clearly. So things that are super transparent like that might be asked to remove those. Either make it completely opaque or make it gone. And it kind of needs to be one or the other, because if they try to overlay it onto something and you have text over, say, this area, and you have a semi-transparent, wispy light thing, then it's going to make it very difficult for the readout and the layout. And so I might just refer to that over a couple of times. There's several people that did that, but that's one of the things that was consistent. I like the feeling. She has very nature vibe to her. What would I change? I'd say that there needs to be another level of detail going on, another rendering pass at least in the face. If we, I need to switch folders. Yeah, so if we can get the faces up to somewhere near that level. This is by Westbird, if I'm not mistaken, and everyone should go check out his gallery, Westbird, W-E-S-B-U-R-T. I love his stuff, good stuff. So somewhere around these levels, and it just needs to be able to hold up more, be a bit more realistic. We're going to blacks too quickly on the features and a bit outliney on the features. So I put most of my attention on there. Also watch the horns, that the horns aren't going back at quite the same angle that the head is. So the horns, looks like this one. Oh yeah, I need to speed up, okay. But if that one's curving up, that one needs to also curve up, so it's going to be doing that sort of thing, right? Just not as so much of the same angle. Okay, got good flow to it. Now this guy is getting a bit too contrasty. We're getting just very liney in here, and let's see if we can get yeah, it's just kind of the lighting is a little odd on him. See if you can ease that up a little bit and see if we can get some better shapes out of this silhouette. Is this set on 100? Nope. We can find some more interesting shapes, and we can use that silhouette in order to show kind of the roughness of the edges and play that up. Because you've got all of these big pieces, but I feel like he's too smooth along the edges. So let's change that. So I got this heater on me until the AC kicked in. Trying to get it turned off here. There we go. Yeah, it's not really reading as dirt right now. It's reading a bit more as leather. So we might have to try to dull those colors down more and be a bit more textury with your brush strokes. Yeah, that would be good. And consider making him a bit more lopsided. Like this is a good start, but you can make him more lopsided. You can get the head, kind of tilt the head to one side, make him a bit more, Quasimodo. Oh yes, as a reminder to myself, Madao, you are on the thumbnail for the video. If that is not acceptable to you, let me know. I will swap it in for somebody else, but you do have credit in the description of the video. So, yeah. Amanda says, Swatches, what could I do to make him look more like Pond Mud? Oh, okay. I like the idea, and I think it would serve you well to have some of the big clumps of dirt and sort of the mud is coming off of it. So the hanging parts, let's have the mud, it's all coming down to the side, right? It's like wax dripping. It's a slow drip. So this is a good start, but we really need to play that up. So on the top you have like the rocks being shown. The rocks are there, but the mud is sort of coming off the bottom of it. So the bottoms are going to have your drippies. All of this is going to have the drippies on it. And kind of clump style. And you can see where it's been dripping down. It's kind of splatting around him. On the top, it could be a bit more rocky where the harder, bigger pieces are being shown. And then that would really help to sell it. I was thinking you might have been going that way. There just wasn't enough of the dripping feel for me to get that across. What else could you do? You would need to look at some references as far as like lighting. This is not my normal brush setup. That's not where it is on my other computer. Okay. You'll need to get maybe some cooler colors, like some light blues or something, and do some highlights. Where you're going to get some, why does that seem like that is not opaque? We're going to get some highlights, specular lights, along the wet areas. So go look at mud, go look at some photos of anything that's wet in the rain, and it's going to get more of a specular light approach like that. That's a good question. Yeah. Okay, Andrew, Doris. Okay, I was backing up to say, if you didn't have time to do all the characters, then just do what you could. So I asked if you had time, then do all 3 characters, but if you didn't, just pick 1 or 2, and that's fine. So that's what we have with Andrew here. And I like these. I think that's a classic sort of paladin. And the blade mage, I thought I'd ask you to make the sword smaller on the blade mage. You might have. It still looks pretty big, but you can go with it. Okay, the designs look pretty good. They've got good energy. He needs to feel stable, so I'm okay with that. This has good, that's eking with energy on her. The biggest thing here would be the metal. Also, this leg, we want to jump that leg out a little bit. Let me use something else here. Is the pressure sensitivity of this pen turned down? I have to push it a lot harder than my other one. I need more curve on that. Because the leg, the thigh comes down, and then the calf jumps over on the left side. And so you've got that, and it comes out more on the top, on the outside there. And this is coming straight. If anything, it's kind of leaning to the inside, and we need to bump that out there and then let it kind of come back. And same thing with that side. It could be doing a bit more of this. Yeah, that would feel a little better. Kind of that sort of thing. Yeah. So that would be helpful. Just a little tweak to his stance there. I'm going to talk about the material thing in a second. The other thing here that bothers me is this. There's no folds or anything in that. So we need to figure out a way to sell that. The way that folds over her body is kind of weird. If you want to just play up the action of it more, maybe doing, this sort of thing, where there's, I'm not kind of thinking like, where is it hanging from? It's kind of hanging from there, and then it's going to switch back on itself. And then you have, this sort of thing at the bottom, the like wavy pattern at the bottom. And so then you have that. And then you can have, an aggressive turn back on it. Then that would get you some more dynamic folds into this thing and read it as more fabric-like. On this one, so some of these things apply to multiple images. That's why I'm spending more time on them. On this one, the metal is feeling really like just painted gray rather than metallic. And it would really be nice if you came in here and added some more metallic feel to it. Like if you had that, and then you had your kind of a bit more sheen to it. That we don't have any kind of sheen on it. And remember, this is going to be working like a mirror, and it's going to be reflecting the colors around it. So we want to be grabbing some of the tones around there and thinking about how they get distorted around that. No, I don't need to update right now. Thank you. So that sort of thing, when you pull it out, it's going to have more of a metallic feel to it. I'll probably push the highlights just a little too much there. And we can go look at other, references. This is a good way. Something with bright armor like that is using a couple of different colors, usually blue on the top and warmer on the bottom. So if you wanted to do that, we experiment over here. This is something I wanted to cover for multiple people, so yeah. So we have like a warmer tone on the bottom. I'm just picking kind of like a tannish color. And I've got to adjust that while I'm in here. Then we have a more bluish tone at the top from the stuff that's pointing more upwards. And you sort of divide it. Stuff that's facing downwards, warmer tone. Stuff facing upwards, cooler tone. I need to import my other brushes. This is kind of a pain. So that would be one approach. We just need to go over the armor and give it that nice gleam. So there we go. Okay, let me check the chat here. Hey, quick question. I'm very late because I'm timing issues. Do you think I can post a submission right now still? Oh, no, it's closed. No, commission's closed an hour or two before the live stream so that I have time to get everything ready. Okay. Okay, unless I need to open in Photoshop, I think I'm going to just open it like this. This takes too long when you do it to every single one of them. Orally, I just did mainly the one hunter, halfling. I'm glad there's some people that are doing some halflings. Got a little love for them. Good. Okay, again, I love the action. I love her expression. She seems like a fun character that you would want to play as. The animal companion is good. It's not there yet, though. It's not there yet. The idea is solid, the pose is solid, all of that, but we need to step it up a notch with the rendering. Like the fur on the fox, it's not really reading as fox. It also doesn't have some of the, really good fox features. They're usually much more lean. That's a bit more of a wolf body. He's a bit chunkier. And then we have the lighting where you kind of just glazed over some light spots over the character, and that's not really working. So go take a look for images with dapple lighting. Just Google art paintings with dapple lighting, or photographing under dapple light, something like that. And there are some really good ones. Yeah, I've got a comment down here like, just ask the Facebook group, does anybody have some good images on that shows dapple lighting? Somebody's going to have some. I know I have a couple. I also discussed that a little bit in the Making Jace video, so if you want to check that out, I discuss it in there. But essentially what you want to do is tone down the whole thing, give it like an overlay layer of a very light, almost any color, say blue, and so it just tones it all down a little bit, and then you come back with a linear light with a really dark orange, and then pop in the lights on that, And that's going to give you a really good basis to work from. And you're probably going to work in bigger patches. So you're going to have like all of this section is going to be lit, and then it's going to break off into the hair, and then it's going to break off down in here. But what you don't want to do is just have lots of spots. You want to have kind of like a major area, and then let it, filter out into shadow on the rest of it. So this would be, I would put, your attention over to this. This is fantastic. Make sure you get that to work. And yeah, check out the fox anatomy, see if they can get better shapes out of that. All right, this is by Bass. Oh yeah, Bass, you're in the live chat. This is excellent. Yeah, this is really good. I love the level. I love the level of finish you've put on this. It immediately tells me Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder. It's one of those sort of things. And she's beautiful, she's regal, and I feel like there's a lot of culture behind her. This is a really good example, guys, of what I mentioned in previous live stream about starting from a place of realism, then adding a twist of fantasy. That's what Bass has done here. And that's exactly what you want to do for a challenge like this. That is, look at classic armor, look how it works, look how the pieces work together, look how the engraving and the detailing works, and then add a little fantasy flair to it. So going forwards, what would I say to do? I feel like the lighting maybe just is a little lackluster. So that's probably, I don't think you want to go overboard with trying to, like this super dynamic lighting on it. But the attention is sort of going everywhere because everywhere has the same treatment. And I would give just another, let me make a multiply layer. I start thinking about it one way, and then I change how I want to say it halfway through and think about a different way to do it. I don't get on this computer very often. Every time I get on there, it tells me it's time to run updates and everything. I would just push down. Okay, these are a bit too symmetrical. The size of all these folds, it's a bit too even. So I would change those now that I'm looking at them. And create some sort of shadow pattern in there. Just dropping back some of that back part. I would also allow that to go darker and let the blade go nice and bright towards the top. Then that could also be getting toned down a little bit. We don't have much in the way of cast shadows. That would be nice. That's sort of what I'm looking at being added here. Let's add a bit more cast shadow to it. Now, like you can see here, I'm not dropping stuff to black. I don't want to lose a lot of this. I just want to create a bit more depth with some of the cast shadows. That's all good. I might even bump a bit more color into her face. You got such good skin tone and a nice profile there. That's the direction I would go, just punching in some of the cast shadows with a light multiply glaze, clearing up some of those folds there, and possibly bringing out a bit more of the lights in the hair. I know it's really dark hair, but unless it's really large, you can't make out any of that. So I would just bring out some of the highlights and let them pull out a bit more. Otherwise, beautiful piece. You ought to be proud of that, and that should fit in your portfolio well. Dan. All right, Dan is the first one we've got running all three characters. Elementalist, Minor Golem, and Barbarian. Okay, well, on these, Bass, yeah, you're welcome for the feedback. Thank you for joining the challenge. Really loved seeing the piece. Very minor stuff. You're nailing almost everything on that piece. Elementalist. Okay, I remember loving. Sorry, hiccup. I remember loving the drawing, but we're losing a lot. All the colors here are very dulled down. And that's the first thing that catches my attention, because the designs are quite solid. The poses are quite solid, except for the golem. He's very passive. And the colors and the lighting is just not doing much for me. So let's see if we can do any quick changes here. How about that? 5 second levels change. And this is sort of thing that you get to notice. You kind of get a blind spot to the more that you're working on it, because you'll forget to look for, is it too light? Is it too dark? Is it too saturated? Is it too dull? In this case, it's kind of just too dull. That is way better. This is interesting. I feel like this is coming up right underneath him. I would expect this to be a bit more in front of him. And this takes up quite a bit of space. So if you were to move this right down here, then have these kind of coming off along this way. It's more exploding out from that point rather than these coming into that point. You want to get the idea it's coming out. That's good. I would probably play around with his hair a bit more, get some better shapes in there, let that be blowing around, get a bit more action. You kind of have that sort of feeling from the fur. You have it from these. Play up the hair on the thighs a bit more, and not necessarily on all of it. It could be, more, much more skin-like, much smaller. But on the top of the thighs, generally satyrs are thought to have heavier fur or hair. I don't know which one, but there you go. Something on that lines. That's excellent. I would like that. And the cool book. That's good. All right, on this guy, he's very passive. You've done a lot of detail work into it. He's kind of simple. It's fine. What gets me, I guess, is the face the face is directly onto me, and the body is turned. And there's not a feeling of like a neck turning or anything. For this one, I would change it. I would put his face down here a little bit. I would simplify the face so that it's not as humanoid. It's just a mask. It could be any kind of pattern. You could mimic these same shapes onto a bronze mask and just let that be his face. He doesn't really have a personality. There isn't a spirit inside of there. There isn't an entity. It's just a kind of time release spell that animates this thing. So that would be a bit more the right direction, just as far as what I was talking about. What else? I'm thinking this might be more interesting if you slimmed up the middle of the arm and then just allowed it to have these big hands. Instead of the way the arms were, which is large to just little. And so here you have these big fingers coming out of it. The other thing is this has a heroic stance. He's chest forward. And really, that's not quite the right feeling. We want more of a lurching feeling out of him. So consider using the warp tool in order to give him a bit more of the hunchback, kind of lurching zombie sort of thing. Right? He's dragging his sword along. And this one would even be like, arr. You know, he's got one hand up. So, there. On this guy, I think this is just another case of levels. We can look at the levels here. If we no, that's not what I meant. If we were to get the white out of that area and just look at him, then in his levels, there isn't anything up near white. So if we were to punch that up, we don't have any blacks either, so we want to punch that up. That's going to help out. Okay. For barbarian orcs, I think you did a good job here. This is, I think of a barbarian orc, something like this comes to mind. Minor changes would be, doesn't feel like he has much covering along there. Let's see some more stuff going across here. Maybe has some of these like tied along this way. You have that sort of tie there. I think that could be something that you do across both of these. We also, let's have some ties going along here, like wrapping through the sockets, kind of showing how those are strapped onto there. This also feels like he's only armored up here on the front. If either we have at least a strap going back, or if we can show this thing wrapping around to the back side, that would be helpful. Small, but it would make it feel like it's actually going around him. That sort of thing. It's crude, but yeah. I might thicken that handle up a bit. And double up the size of that end. Yeah. Dude, solid stuff. I'll end it there. Hopefully you find that helpful. Daniel Reyes. Okay, I want to think that you reworked the troll, because I don't remember seeing that guy. I'm liking him. I think this is a good direction. I don't remember what the first one was offhand, but this is good for the troll. The tusk essentially coming out of the cheekbone, and then the weird mouth in the middle. It works though. It works. That is not the right program. Nope. Yeah, you're welcome, Dan. Really solid pieces. They really are. So for this guy, one of the things that I'm thinking of, I think you've handled this very well. He might be getting just a little dark in the shadow areas, so I would bring that back up. Push that up, bring that down a little bit. There we go. So just a little bit there. And I would be looking for opportunities to give a little skin tone change on him. That would be one of the smallest things to add in, but I think it could add just one more level to the finish of him. So you can just go over to color, and so he's just kind of one tone green. But if there was some other version, like some sort of tannish color, or if you shifted into some other color of green, no? Or even if you went a bit more kind of pink. So maybe he has like a spot down his chest that's a bit more that way, and then spots along his joints, like his knees, knuckles. Maybe even his feet, kind of down the middle of his body. I'm just trying to think of some little pattern that would add something there. It would also be sort of up like along the nose. Maybe he has kind of a purplish, I'd say maybe to the blue. Purple's too far. Maybe he's got like blue lips or something. So experiment with some different colors that you could add into it that would break up just the monotonous sort of green. Just adding some variations of different greens in there. Yellow. I think kind of yellow works for him. Dark yellow as far as color change. Yep, small stuff, but that would help him out. The satyr. She's feeling too short. She's almost feeling like a halfling proportion. I would see about stretching her out. Yeah, it's like her waist. Yeah, her upper body needs to be extended out more, because one head length usually gets you to the nipples, and then one head length gets you to the navel, and then another head length gets you to the crotch. But we essentially got to the crotch in like 2 head lengths. So we need to add like 2 more head lengths, at least 1, maybe 2 more to the overall figure. And this is another one where we could punch up some of the values. She's just getting a bit too grayed out. And the white back here isn't quite white, so it's kind of throwing it off. This is really solid. I'm liking that quite a bit. Beautiful sword, lots of design on him. Again, like, okay, the upper body looks good on him, but the legs look a little short for that. That or that middle needs to move up some. Even that feels a little bit better. I wouldn't change much on that guy. He looks pretty solid. Yeah. Good stuff. Minor changes there. Let's see. Is there anything like real more changes? Satyr, staff, glow. I would play up the glow on this. Horns are good. The ears are good. Try to add a bit more gleam to the metal part of the armor where it's catching the light. We're going to have some little specular lights. Play up the some more of those. Then in the silver part, they're really not catching anything. Maybe a bit more of that. This is getting me a little odd, so I would say maybe change that. This we're seeing almost from underneath, like really low. This is turned up to us completely, when it really, I don't really see it doing that. It's gonna have more of this because it's blowing that way and it's anchored here. It's gonna have that sort of angle to it and not this. So it's gonna be blowing. Let me change this. It's anchored here and here essentially, and it's being blown. So these are naturally going to have a swag between them because there's less distance here than there is here. And that means that it's got to make up some folds right there. And then it's going to start releasing out, and it's going to be a series of this sort of thing. Usually I pull it from that corner since that's the far corner, and I'm going to have that sort of pattern going on there, but they're likely going to be turned down and not turned up towards us as much. You might have like that back edge kind of turning up to us there. So, Florian. I did see some of your variations of this character out on the Facebook group. The first thing I'm going to call you out on, and you probably already know this as soon as I say it, the background's not white, and that's what I asked for. So an art director would immediately send this back to you and say, this isn't what we asked for. And that's what happens when I try to change it. So this is where you run into the problem of having this semi-transparent sort of thing with the image that the studio wouldn't really be able to do much with it. Even if you sent this in, unless this was layered, they can't do anything with it. Okay. So if I say white background, it needs to be white background. Blink. And okay, the major thing here to pay attention to is the walking animation. That this leg is going to be this, yeah. This thigh is coming forward, so it's going to be coming down. That means that this shoulder is going to be opposite to that. This one's down. This one's going to be up. That one needs to be down because this arm is coming forwards. And that means this upper body, nope, it's like this. Upper body's turning this way a little bit because it's thrusting this arm forwards. And the lower body's turned that way. Since this leg is coming forwards, they always go, vice versa in order to keep it balanced. And what we have is her basically straight on, but her arms and legs are moving, which is very mechanical. It's not very natural. And we're not getting the tilt to the body. So if I can... I must have snapped me up. Okay, the other thing is, okay, let me back up. Cool design. As far as Blade Mage goes, really good. I think this is an excellent display for a Blade Mage. It has really good clear rendering. I think that's excellent. She feels like a fun character. She feels like a character that if somebody would see it, they would think, okay, I'd like to play as that character. And it is cool. She's got a different attitude. She has a kind of a culture about her. And she has the right balance of like swordsmanship, but also kind of arcane powers as well. So I think the walking step, balance to it is a big deal. And then we're looking up a lot at the belts, except we're looking completely straight on at everything else. So if anything, the belts basically need to be going straight across, as in not turned down or not turned up. If anything, maybe turned down a little bit, but I can't really see that they're turned up unless she actually has a piece of fabric that's, made in a arch shape. The other thing is that doesn't look right. Like when your arm moves forwards, it feels like this arm needs to be out further. Right? And then it starts overlapping the chest a little bit because it's coming forwards. So I'm going to say double check this. It doesn't feel like that's really coming forwards correctly. And then that one's going to be coming backwards a little bit more. Make sure you look at some reference. I'm going to suggest not only just look at some photo reference, go look at animators walking. There's a term for it. Walking cycle. Go look up references for walking cycle for animators. Most of them will show them from the side. Look for ones that are from the front, and it will help you figure out how to get that more accurate and how to get more out of that particular pose. Yep. Thanks for the feedback. Yep. You are looking fancy today. Well, yes, I am. Thank you for noticing. I picked up a couple of new items for my wardrobe. Or this channel have Instagram so I can see his work? Well, you can follow my work. The channel itself doesn't have one, but my personal art does. It is at Cearley Clint, CearleyClint, my last name or first name. Yep, at Cearley Clint. Could you explain why the background needs to be white? That was just set up to mimic a Dungeons & Dragons submission where that's what they would request. So I was trying to present this as being a Dungeons & Dragons challenge, and that's the way that you do them for them, because they need to be able to put that and overlay it and onto the page however they need to, and it can't have backgrounds going along with it. All right, Jara. It's a little big. Let me shrink that down. All right, Elementalist sketch. I like the pose. I think that's a good start for the Elementalist. Running with a paladin and a goblin scout. Okay, the paladin. Yes and no. There's some things working here and things that not. A paladin, this guy's feeling a bit too meek. Remember, these should be heroes. These should be guys that are stout of heart or super sneaky or nefarious or powerful, whatever it is, but this guy's feeling a bit meek. One of the reasons is his pose is very small. His feet and his legs and his knees are close together. One of his arms is tucked into himself, and his eyebrows are turned down, giving him all a very kind of passive, non-powerful feeling. So I would want to see him being opened up a bit more, probably his feet being spread apart a bit more. That hand needs to have a reason to be up there. If you want his hand up, then consider doing something like putting his hand on a sigil on his armor or on his vesture, and that symbol is starting to glow, so he's like channeling power, or he's grasping some necklace piece and the light is coming from the necklace. Another thing is the way that he's holding the sword. Holding the sword backwards like that is a completely passive way to hold it. There's no way that you would ever go into combat with a sword being held backwards. So these sorts of things have to be thought through so that they are conveying the nature of the character. It's your job to convey that to me, and the pose is one of the biggest ways that you can do that. Now, like the Elementalist is doing that well. This is somebody that's got power, it's kind of flowing energy to it, it's got a good expression to it. Now, I could see this guy working as being, I'm almost getting the idea like this is like a properly trained, I know England wouldn't exist, but almost like an English knight of a proper bloodline. I just kind of get that feeling from his face. And I think that could really work for him. And we'd have this very proper sort of stance, almost like he's in an old-time portrait. And he's standing in his, nice attire with his foot propped up on a rock. I think that could work. But again, we would have to make it a bit more chest out, head turned, kind of looking in the distance sort of way, with almost looking down his nose a little bit. He's a little proud. Yeah. Goblin Scout. I like your deviation from the standard goblin here. It's a nice little direction change from what you normally see. It is a bit flat as far as the lighting. I would like to see a bit more tone, volume brought out of the different shapes. Probably rough up his clothing a bit more. He's got this sort of crude spear that really works for him, but he's got clothes that are a bit too clean. It's all put together. Looks very cute. I love this stuff. He is a little cute. I would say just grunge him up. Make him feel like he just came out of living in the sewer for the last 6 months. And that would be kind of hitting the right note for him. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, there's something about the direction of having a goblin with his eyes like really wide, where they're almost bug-eyed on the sides. I think that could really work well. All right, good stuff there, good stuff. Jonathan. All right, did the twins. Okay, Arya and Ares, Hunter and Barbarian. Yeah, I would completely buy these as being from the same culture, likely being even from the same family, no doubt. These are solid pieces. Really good stuff here, Jonathan. I've got some minor suggestions, but on the whole, poses are working well. It's well rendered. It's clean. Everything is understandable. Everything's, sits in its right spot. As far as like values and colors. The thing that came to my mind, I just went out very quickly. The thing that came to my mind, I don't know if you're aware of this at all, but I did not download the image, I guess. I thought I'd put an image in that folder. Nope, I don't guess I did. Oh, yeah. You've pretty much designed her, which is Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. So if you're not aware of that, that's Aloy, the main character from the game Horizon Zero Dawn. And there's a lot of resemblance between the two of those, which, good minds think alike, I suppose. But if you were looking for more references, you might go check her out. So as far as taking these further, what would I do? Open them up first. There is something about it that's kind of catching me. Okay, let's talk about her first. Yeah, I think we need almost larger areas of light and shadow difference. It's like every area has light and shadow. Every area is really well rendered, which is excellent, but there isn't any area that's like making any big blocks. I'm gonna set it to darken, set it down, halfway or so. Fine, I'll just type it in if you don't let me click it. Okay. You honestly didn't see a resemblance until someone mentioned it on the Facebook page. I tell you what, you're going to do that. I've done that. I've sat around, designed stuff. It's like, dude, this is a good idea. This is working really well. And then a week or two later, I'm looking through my reference files and I'm like, I just about recreated somebody else's scene. For the life of me, I would not have remembered it, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I probably had that feeding into my subconscious. And yeah, the other thing is, once you start heading down a certain design path, it's not unlikely that you end up at a similar place that somebody else has. When you start working with certain colors, with a certain, design idea behind it, you go, well, this and this work together. Oh, and then this and that work together. And then you just realize that there's certain combinations that just lead you to the certain path. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is adding a bit more of a shadow. You're working with, your shadow's also kind of warm. Let's do something like this. I need something darker. Okay. So we're looking at the light coming from the left side because the right side of her head is being shadowed. And I'm just looking at letting this whole thing kind of have a left to right lighting style where nothing on that right side should be kicking up to the same value as stuff on that left side, since they're not receiving as much direct light. And knocking down some of the lights in the other places. Again, like the cast shadows there. Letting those kind of tone down that stuff. It is still raining. Wow. Well, so that's a small change, but you see where this is just very visually busy. There's a lot going on, which is good because there's lots of visual interest there. You can sit down and kind of look across all the elements, and that's good. But they're all given the same amount of value and color range, and that just makes it kind of bit too busy, too cluttered looking. And by adding a value pass, a darken shadow pass to it, then it helps to simplify it without necessarily getting rid of all that detail, because I'm only coming in at like 60%. Him, basically the same thing. Like we have highlights on everything on every side, which isn't really what we need, so same sort of approach over here. And some of this is very flat, and that bothers me a little bit. These are minor things. I'm just picking out things, picking up from the point where you are right now. I'm not saying that these are big things. I'm just saying that you're at the point where these are the things to look at. This is completely flat to us. There's no curve in it. I would want to see curve showing the volume of his chest, right? On both of these straps. I think this could all be used to tell that better. We're also going to be looking at this. See, we have his neck coming down, and then immediately there's no room for the armor. That is exactly where his neck would be, right there. And now where's the volume for thickness of the armor? And then we have to have the armor of this one on top of that one. So all of this needs to be moved up to make use of the thickness. Yep. Mm-hmm. I don't think this necessarily needs to blow around that much. Again, I don't know. See. So that feels a bit better to me. See where his knees feel like they're pulling together too much? When you kind of push those out a little bit, you might even, bring his feet out a bit more. So, just broaden his chest out, broaden his legs out maybe a little bit. And that sort of shadow pass to it. Otherwise, good, yeah. You could wrap that up in probably an hour or so. Kayla. Right, running with Orc Barbarian. Two different blades on it. That's pretty cool. Bear skin. Okay, I feel like you're jumping to black really quickly on your orc, and we could get more out of it before you jump to black, because it all starts getting just kind of lost in all the darkness. The bear is very clearly pristine, and its head has this big profile. And it keeps grabbing my attention because it just is like, almost looks like there's a bear head or bear emerging out of this guy. Oop, got an alarm. it's less like he's wearing a skin than it looks like he has two heads, and one of them's a bear and one of them's an orc. So we want to be able to change that. Either you totally get rid of it, which is an option. I don't think you necessarily have to. But if you were to keep it, I would consider doing something like putting war paint designs on it. So this is obviously not a living bear. This isn't like, a two-person thing. So he's got like, war paints that's, white maybe, that's put it on it, or maybe they painted designs into the fur, or maybe he painted like, X's over the eyes, like, oh, I killed you, you dead. That sort of thing. I like the extra color here, like the rust color, or blood, whatever it is, on the blade there. I would do that over here too. Rust or blood stains on that would bring a bit more color to it. I'm completely along with Leo. These orc shoes are inspired. So I'll definitely keep those. Okay, the satyr. Satyr Elementalist. Hanging fabric, staves. I definitely get the Elementalist feel. The legs look... I feel like the legs look a bit beefy for the lady. So I would see about slimming these down. Also adjusting. You're seeing this one way more from the side. This one, she's almost front on to us, but the leg is very much from the side. So if anything, the legs should probably splay out just a little bit. Most animals' back legs are that way. Or like a horse. A horse's back legs aren't straight to you. Horses' back legs actually go out a little bit. And so if you're going to have this leg like that, then this leg needs to be turned almost straight to us. Or if this one's that way, then no, I think this one might even be the problem more than anything. I want to say this knee needs to be shifted over. We need to turn that more straight on. Yep. Yeah, just pick up an anatomy book. Oh, I picked up one recently that I've really enjoyed looking at. It is anatomy book put out by Imagine Effects magazine. It is a culmination of a bunch of their anatomy articles over all the issues put together. I don't remember the proper name of it. Somebody would have to look it up. But it's like, it says anatomy real big on it, Imagine Effects magazine. And it has human anatomy and animal anatomy. And it has a really good breakdown. I was looking at it this morning. It had a good breakdown of the different animal legs and how they're, variations of human legs and human arms and vice versa. So that should probably help. That would be a good investment. I think it was like $25. It was a really good book. I would recommend picking it up for your library. Leonardo. I've got to go faster. We're already an hour and a half in, and I'm not even halfway through. Okay, I'm picking it up. The hunter. The hunter. Okay, the thing with the hunter is it's running between being like a halfling and a human, because she's not lengthy enough to be a human, but she's not really squat enough to be a halfling or a dwarf. Or a half-elf. A half-elf should be lengthier than that. So I would see about trying to check her proportions. And she should be running at least 8 head lengths tall. With this, I'm assuming this is supposed to be metal, but it's running very flat right now. I'm going to suggest finding some good metal references and getting a better material sheen from that. The colors are a little dull. Might pick those up a little bit. Elementalist. She's feeling more solid to me. I like this pose, by the way. The pose, the overall look of her is good. Some armor, some fabrics, the long mohawk hair. This is a little weird. I would get rid of that. Just the one piece from the sideburn coming down. I would just get rid of that. That's sort of odd. Unless you continued it along the side of the head or something. But you could easily have just a long piece that's kind of, not tucked in, that's hanging down. That's fine. On this one, I feel like you could get a bit more out of the lighting than that. Like you have a bit more of the green light lighting her up here, or even sunlight, and then let it kind of go to shadow a little bit. Also, she's floating, having a bit more, dynamics from the cape as it's sort of wafting around in this unseen levitation. And also, if this was a bit more in shadow, then we could have minor glow effects from some of these bottles. Ray says, "Hey Clint, I'm at work and I took a break to watch the stream for a second. Just wanted to say thank you for the critique." Well, you're welcome, and thanks for coming in on your break. You didn't have to. Of course, this will be recorded. You can watch it a bit later. Yep, that's the Imagine Effects Presents How to Draw and Paint Anatomy book, I think. That sounds right. Yeah, pretty good stuff in there. You can also look at Terrell Whitlatch's animal anatomy books. Yes, those are also good for animal stuff. She knows what she's doing. The Troll. Okay. Some stuff here is working, some isn't. One of the first things that catches me is the pose idea is good. He's kind of lumbering over, turning back to look this way. I like it. What's not working is his belly. Having a bigger belly, that's good. But it looks more bloated than anything. It should be hanging down with the center following the center of his body. So center, his belly button should be over here, and it should be hanging off on this side. This is sort of like going against gravity to be over here. So also let it pudge out a bit more on his sides. If he's got that big of a belly, then you're probably going to have some love handles there on the sides. Especially on this side, since it's the narrow side, that's the side that's getting squeezed. And you're going to have more as it squeezes up. I mean, just even right there on my hand where it has to buckle because I lessen the space. Okay, another thing here is that this is right on top of his knee. And when it's small, that gets a little confusing. So it needs to have like a blade or something coming down that separates it from the shape and the location of the knee. Yep. Now I just want to draw orcs doing fashion Instagram poses. Yeah. These are a little confusing. If they're horns, it's not really working because the only way that works is if we're really zoomed in. We need to show at least 2 of them that are actual horns, and then we could get the idea that maybe the other ones are broken off or they need to be removed. This is also a guy that you could think about using more like of an animal ear. Ear kind of goes off to the side, or an ear that sort of droops down. Would go along with his overall character. Lily. Right. Good impressions here, Lily. Barbarian definitely feels very barbarian. Furs, good expression. The blades, I think, need work. I think you just splattered some color on there, but I would challenge you to go look at some photos of some axes, axe heads, and also look at the way that blood dries. It usually gets very black, and there's only certain areas that gets the good red sheen of it. It doesn't stay real red for real long. What else? Oh, this is pretty good. I really like your Elementalist. It's a different approach, obscuring a lot of her face like that, but the horns that have the flowers on it, that's a lovely idea. And the small butterflies, a couple of leaves around her, good feeling to it. This is a very, this is a little odd. With the hair coming down, it immediately runs into the shape of this tabard thing. And we don't see where the hair really stops. That might be it right there. I can't even tell. I think that's a belt. So what we don't really want is one shape going down, stopping right behind an object, and another shape of the same size and the same orientation coming down underneath it. So either the hair needs to stop up here where we can see it, or it needs to continue down here where we can see it end. I'm going to say it probably should stop up here, because even if it came down here and stopped, it would seem a little odd. This is also a very large kind of blank area that it would be nice to get a little work into it. I'm thinking just either some of the green or some of the pink, just like flower patterns, floral patterns, just a little design work, stitching design in it, just to make more use of that, keep it from being so blank, and then add just a bit more of her theme throughout the whole character. All right, the little goblin dude. Okay. I'm not getting a lot of volume out of this. One thing I want to see is maybe a bit more cast shadow from the head. It feels like it's on the exact same level as the body, that nothing is on top of anything else or overhanging anything else. Same thing with like the nose. The nose is a giant nose that isn't even having a cast shadow. So let's try to pull out the volumes. Same thing with like this. It has kind of a hat thing on, but there's really no, I don't know if it's like right on his head or like off of his head. With the shield, it feels odd having that hand here like this, because I'm not sure. Usually, unless I'm mistaken, didn't the arm go through a loop and they held a thing on the other side of the shield? They held like a, I don't know, a bar or something, so that they could move the shield. Right now we have the hand out sideways with the shield on it. So it's like, I don't know where it would be strapped to him. I would rather see this shield being rotated around to about here, and then maybe you just see a knuckle or two where you can kind of see that hand behind there gripping the shield. Yeah. There you go, Lily. Good finish on them. I like the directions for all of them that have a lot of character. I think the Elementalist is probably your strongest of the three. Madao. There we go. Madao Way. Dwarf, challenge, fur, not finished. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean here. Yes, the fur is not finished. I'm going to tell you, obviously I looked at this one earlier because I actually used it in a thumbnail. this is successful. And I'll tell you why this is successful. Because as soon as I opened it and I looked at the image, I thought, I want to play as that character. And that is what you want from this challenge. That's the whole idea of what the artist is trying to achieve. They're not trying to make the best painting ever. They're not trying to have the coolest design ever. They're not trying to do any of those things. They're not having the best edges. It's not about having any of that. It's when the character is seen by the player, does the player want to play as that character? That is what the company is hiring you to do. Are you doing that with the piece? This piece is doing that. So I'd say very good. Yeah, does it have some things that still need to be finished? Yes, it does. So obviously the fur, this is still in progress. So obviously that needs some work done to it. This is also just kind of some odd shapes. So I assume that you're looking into that. Beautiful finish on this. I love that. Yeah, like that probably has some more work on it there. I would like to see better sheen on some of the metal. It doesn't necessarily have to be gleaming metal, but some little highlights on it. Or if you want to make it go the other way, an example why it doesn't, then some rust stains. Just throw in some little browns, maybe some little greens, yellows, different rust tones in there. And just break up the bluish tint to it. Some of the small designs in the leather work, the teeth that she evidently collects, that's excellent. So yeah, this is good. Would I change anything? I don't know where her bolts are, so I would consider giving her bolts. If this is a knife, I might take the knives out and have some crossbow bolts in there instead. Don't forget about the cast shadow from all this fur coming across the arm. Some of the designs on that would be good. Some brighter specular lights on the metalwork down there. No, I don't have too much on that. It's pretty successful. Oh, okay, this does get me a little bit. The light is clearly coming from the right side, but this is sort of like lit from the front. So I would see about changing that up a little bit so that we have a bit more of the right to left, light to shadow pattern there. Beautiful piece, and thank you for submitting it. Did good stuff. Marcel. Unfortunately, still a work in progress. Okay. Just to be clear, I really like this orc rendition. It runs it a bit more bestial, a bit more fantasy, and this is a good design. You're mixing up fur and skin with this sort of hide and rock texture. It's all working together really well. Obviously, it still needs to be finished up, and I look forward to seeing what you do with it. I would make sure that you're going nice and big with the tufts of hair here, and let that tell a lot of the texture of what's going on with it. Paladin. It's got a good feel to it. Feels like you're very strong character, core beliefs, and must do what's right sort of thing. Good shapes. This I'm not getting too well. I'm looking at it here for a little bit. It just doesn't fit into the dynamics of anything else. I'm not really getting that as fur. If you want to have something there, the cloth is actually a pretty good idea. I would consider like part of this opens up, or a sash comes out from under part of his armor, and it goes up over his shoulder and hangs down the back. So it's a little asymmetrical. On one side, he's got this big shoulder armor. And then on the other side, it has this beautiful blue and gold sash that goes up over the other shoulder. I think that would work better than the light fur thing. The silhouette on this is super plain. You've got all these beautiful, nice kind of geometric shapes. And then we have a completely rectangular head on this. These are nice designs. Can we play with that a little bit and punch out some other shapes on those? That would be good. And maybe even on this, the beard and the mustache, instead of just being perfectly rounded, play in a little more tufts of hair. Let it break up into little edges of hair, some more, and tell the hair shape with the contour on the edge. Meta says, when you get a chance, I was wondering about your consults. Do you do consults for character designs? Yes, we can cover whatever you want to in consults. I've got to open up more dates. Right now I don't really have time. I'm working overtime trying to do my commissions. But when they open back up, then yes, you can schedule a half hour or 1 hour one-on-one video consultation. And when you schedule that, then you can send in, you will send in answers to a couple of questions that I have. Also with that is whatever images that you're working on that we're going to be discussing. So yeah, if you have some character designs, we could definitely go over that. We can either talk about it or we can just open it up in Photoshop and we can start working through some things. The Hunter. These are both very solid. The colors are feeling a bit dull though. I feel like maybe they're running a bit too high in the levels. And if you just bring that down, it would be with, I try to say some things that I have to realize that not everybody is as familiar with Photoshop. So I'll say that I grab her. It is a her, right? I think it's a her. And I go into curves. What I'm going to do is drop that down. They're super yellow. So either we need to get the highlights. No, I think the highlights are supposed to be that way. Let's get the shadows and add some more cools into the shadows. Bring a bit more color into that. So you can see there, it's just getting a little washed out. I'm just trying to bring back some. I don't think you have to go really bright with it, but a little bit more there would be good. The bird, crossbow thing. I don't have too much to say on this. That's all working together pretty well. And that back leg is really disappearing. I almost feel like you should see that foot back here, or this cape is getting right along where the foot is. A small thing is the bird feels like not really predatorial. I would think that she would have a predatorial bird. This one's, it's kind of like a brighter bird, big red, thing on its head, yellow beak, big yellow spot on its chest. I think it would have even a better feeling if it was like red and black. It would feel a bit more like an attack animal rather than, this feels a bit more like a show bird. Now what we want is more midtones back, and then allow you to just punch up certain areas with some highlights. That's a minor thing. You don't have to do that, but that's something that would cross my mind. The overall design is okay. I think the colors are the main things there. There you go. Matt Oates, you are up. Let's take a look at what you got here. Oh, Elementalist is running with some crazy armor, all right? And we got the Barbarian and the little Goblin. Okay. There's something I really like about the Elementalist with this. I think this is a really good direction, and I kind of like the idea of the wizards and the magic users using this almost slightly sci-fi kind of tight fitting clothing. Yeah. Okay, a couple of things that need to be addressed. This hair, just one big unit. So that kind of needs to be broken up, let it break off into more interesting ways, some curving this way, some curving the opposite way. Go look up anime tutorials on drawing hair. There's some really good ones out there. Go out to Pinterest. There's good how to draw blowing hair tutorial that people have made. So that's where I would look for something like that. Also, it's not running real feminine. I'm thinking this is a lady, but her chest is, I can't say, it's not even so much the chest, it's the hips, I think. The hips are super thin and a bit low, and it's not really giving the female shape. So it looks like this leg needs to be attaching a bit higher, and those hips need to be widening out. So nice and thin there at the waist, but then coming wider here down to the legs. The legs are maybe getting a bit long there. That's a long thigh bone. So that needs to be pulled in more. And yeah, if you look at the distance there and then the distance here. So, man, that's kind of hard to explain without making some lines. So yeah, we can have the kind of hourglass form here, but then the hips need to come out. And that thigh needs to start a bit higher. You could even have it coming, that way. If you want to do that. If not, then it does need to be brought back some, so the foot would be a bit more there. And that doesn't necessarily need to be turned that way. I feel like it could even be turned the other way. Yep, that's my second alarm. There we Because her body is still turned this way. I don't think that leg would need to turn the opposite direction. So it's going to be doing that sort of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Doing that. And if this is all blowing that way, probably going to have this cloak thing in the back starting at like about here, then blowing, and not coming out here and all the way over. So it's kind of anchored here and getting that sort of pattern coming into it. Yep. But I like that direction. That takes some real inspiration to take that a different direction. And yeah, I'd like to see what you do with the final. This is working really well for me. This design, it's very straightforward, but it works. Yeah. So, what's some adjustments here? Feels like really big upper body here. The legs are a bit short, which normally I might be okay with like an ogre, but you're running very humanoid. So I think if you get this, basically you get all of this shifted up a little bit, let that shin stretch out a little bit more. We also don't want to get too washed out here. So this is a place where I might make again, a darkened layer, set it down. It doesn't want me to click on it. I just want to pick on like something like this skin tone. We're getting a lot of white in there, and very white along the edges. So you're actually putting lines on the outside so that you can see it. And we don't really need to be getting to white with the skin. The light isn't that direct. It's not that powerful. So we could be doing that. And we might think about adding in slightly olive tone to his skin, just to keep it not completely human. We're going very kind of beach suntan human color there. Because he is an orc, let's push it a bit more towards at least an olive side. Maybe not green, but something more that direction would be better. Yeah. Okay. This little fella. Yeah, I feel like he's just not even finished that much. So I'm not going to say that much about him. He's getting really, really skinny. So we can still have him small. That's not the layer I meant. You can still have him, you know, little. And kind of frail. But it would be getting a bit more of that sort of shape out of it. Yeah. Okay. Mamet. That's a nice clean image. Let's see what we have. Okay, another blade mage, female elf. Got like a night blade and a fire blade. Okay, one of the biggest things that gets me is this cloth right here. It's kind of because this white shape comes up to here, and then that cloth appears coming up that shape. I'm not even sure we really need that cloth. It's not behaving like cloth the way that it's folding. I could just about get rid of that. You could easily just have like a short sash of it, you know, in order, if you want to just have a horizontal piece of it coming down here, and then that would be fine. And then you show it being also this piece, so they have the same tone, same color. And so you're like, this under piece that's here goes through the whole thing, and then it comes down to here. It also sort of, I think it might be messing up how you're placing the legs, because that leg doesn't feel right, because it's completely sideways to us. I feel like that leg needs to be turned a little bit, because this one's like front one and that one's completely sideways. Be cautious about snapping your legs to orthogonal poses, either being completely straight or completely sideways. It's a really easy thing to do, and most of the time it's not one of those. Most of the time it's got an angle to it. So think about that. We might move that. Also, that's really close to your feet to be together. Even if you're just shoulder length apart, like you're normally standing, you're going to have a bit more space. So let's move that over to shoulder length, and then turn that leg, turn that foot, so it's a little bit more of an angle. Her shoulders feel a bit thin here, a bit narrow. I think this is a character that you could punch her shoulders out a little bit. Not necessarily that she's beefy, but she's kind of has a swimmer's physique. They're just really good shape, strong shoulders. And that would just bring that out a little bit. One of the things that's kind of getting me is you're being pretty realistic with most of this, but like this is cartoony way to handle that lighting situation and skin. And the face is sort of in the middle. It's like it's not realistic because the forms aren't really developed real well, and I don't feel like you were looking at a real human. I feel like you drew a character and just try to paint it. So you're at a point where if you go find a model of somewhere, and you photograph them, or you find some photos, then what you want to do is not copy that. You want to blend the two. Give me about half of each of them. Bring the authenticity of some of the human features and the skin behavior and the skin lighting, and mesh it in with your fantasy character. So, yeah. There we go. Good stuff. Mikawai. All right, we've got the Goblin, Hunter, and Barbarian. The Goblin, okay. One of the things across all of these is that the characters are looking directly at us with their faces. And that makes them feel flat. Things that are completely straight to your point of view have a tendency to flatten out, unless you're doing something with the lighting in order to help bring out the volume. And you're not. Your lighting is also very flat, which makes the characters seem kind of dull. One of the ways that we want to address that is, one, we want to turn the heads a little bit. I think it makes sense for her It's like she's almost lining up a shot. So, okay, we'll have her looking at us. But him, he doesn't necessarily need to be looking at us. Or if he is, then he could have his head turned and his eyes cut back a little bit. Same thing with the goblin. The goblin, if he was down here and he's kind of looking up at us a little bit, that would be better as well. Okay, so a little bit on the posing, that would help. Yes, I'm with Amanda. I thought about saying that. The hunter reminds me of Arya Stark by a lot. So this also comes back to what I said last time. I don't think you took it far enough. And that is, you're starting with what would be a very believable character. I mean, I could imagine a historical person having this sort of outfit, and it would be believable. We don't really have the fantasy here. I'm not seeing this as a Dungeons and Dragons character. Or if it is, I'm feeling like this is just an NPC, a town character. Right? This is just one of the 100 girls that they come across. I know you're trying to do something with the face with like paint or something, but that's not really working. It's getting messy. So I'd say either take that out and just leave the face like normal, or it needs to have like a brighter color or something. Probably brighter, I'm thinking brighter color, so that you can tell it's not scars or it's not dirt. It's intentionally like war paint. These are all very grayed out. Remember the idea of this. These need to be fun. They need to be exciting. They need to be cool. They need to be, I look at this, I want to play this character. That is the top line. That's what has to be achieved. He should feel kind of icky, and he does. I think with the head change, angle change, he really doesn't need that much work. I mean, he is kind of what he is. This guy, I'm going to again say, go look at some fantasy stuff. See how you can bring in some other elements to this. Like the head of the axe. Again, this is maybe normal human, but let's fantasize it. Put glowing runes on it. Make it 2 times larger. Put him an axe blade on each end of it. Why? I don't know. Because that sounds like something somebody would try to use in the game. If he's if he has a shield, frankly, it'd be more interesting for him to be holding the shield because that arm's not doing anything. So give me the shield and then show me some cool big design on the shield. Show me battle scars on it. Show me blood stains on it. So hopefully that helps. And just kind of talking about the direction. It's a mindset shift. This is exactly the right mindset for a particular challenge, for a particular goal when you're trying to go very realistic, kind of gritty, but that's not necessarily what the goal is for this. Nick, you are up, sir. Let's take a look at this. Nick's got a goblin, barbarian, another hunter. Excellent rendition of a goblin. Yeah. That's working well for me. The weird 3 hair line thing. Okay. The color variation on the skin, that's what I was talking about. Another one, you're doing it here. I think it's working well. He has the right amount of, I want to say, intelligence. I feel like he could put together a simple plan, simple tools, but he's not going to be writing the great novel. On all of these, I think we need to start looking at lighting. Like if I'm do a rough pass here. We're losing some of the volume in these guys, and we're losing some of the color in these guys because everything is kind of a bit flat with the lighting. So if I can come in here and punch up some areas with a bit more lighting, it's going to help to bring out some of those forms. Some of that same color can go to some of his other joints. Yeah. So you can kind of see the difference there. That's just a bit flat, all kind of dark. Just popping it out with a bit of light in that sort of direction. Otherwise, the design is good. I don't really want to change anything there. Brandon asks, Swatches, will your process for patrons be available on Gumroad? If you're talking about the painting process guide video, then yes, it will eventually be available on all of my different stores. It will be at a higher rate, though. So patrons get it at a discount because you're patrons. Same sort of thing here. This is all a bit flat. I like the design. The bear motifs throughout this is good. I love seeing that. And then the hair coming out around it. I would be going even further with this. If we're doing the bear, then can we add like ears on here? And then you could even have this like it's wild fur, but they become spikes, that come off of it. That would be kind of interesting. With the lighting, I would want to see something here. And with him, it doesn't necessarily have to be just top down. I mean, it could be any direction that you really want it. I mean, you could even have like an underlighting. Might even work on this fellow. I know that you did not draw yours to have underlighting at all. But if it was kind of just down in front of him, like it was the entrance to some cave or room. Metal would have more likely chance to kind of catch a specular light. So something like that, you know, adds a bit more drama to it. You know, it feels like it's kind of getting overboard down there. Upper body doing some more. You don't need so much down there. Something along that lines would just push it up a little bit more. Tell those volumes, those forms, and add some drama. Same sort of thing here. She feels a bit more unfinished. Okay, the colors here aren't working real well with the, you've got like maroon and browns and tans and greens. If anything, I'd probably just make this fabric white because it's getting lost. Everything's like the same value. It's dark and kind of brownish. And at least white fabric would kind of break that up a little bit. So, you know, during here and here. The face is also needs another pass. I feel like you just sketched a face, but maybe didn't reference one. Make sure you're referencing one. And think about a little bit of lighting. It doesn't have to be something real fancy, but everything's feeling flat because nothing's really lit. Nothing's really, yeah, it's all just kind of shadowed. Peter. I want to befriend that little goblin. I don't even want to fight him. He looks like a fun buddy to hang out with. But okay. Okay, you do have a particular approach. You definitely go a bit more light-hearted, slightly more to the stylized side. Okay. The overall paladin, I think, is working well. Points that need to be addressed a bit is the knees. I think you got some of the shapes from actual armor, but those wouldn't work. I'm pretty sure those wouldn't work. There's not enough play between the shapes for that to bend. Generally, those curvy shapes can account for all of the motion of the knee, and those aren't quite big enough for that. So this and the elbow ones could probably be increased by about 50% in size, and that would be a bit more believable. Also, watch how, find some good references about how those angles. I could be wrong on this, but I'm just feeling like that's not quite right. This arm is also getting really skinny on that side. If you think about it, you've got the thickness of the metal, and then you've got the thickness of the leather and the shirt, and then his arm has to fit inside of there. So and again, like over here too, you've got like metal and then fabric, and then his arm has to fit within about half of that distance, which is super thin. So let's maybe beef that up a little bit and account for that thickness. And with the metal, you're also going more stylized, so I'm not going to say, we need really realistic metal, But you could think about adding 2 different tones of gray, like a warm gray or even just a completely neutral desaturated gray, and like a bluish gray. And things going up are maybe bluish, and everything else is flat gray, no color. And those it'll have a little interplay between those, and it'll keep it from just looking completely flat in color range. Peter says that the elbow armor pieces were roughly referenced, but the knee guards are pure BS. Yeah, that's why, I've seen these shapes before. That looks right. It doesn't look big enough, but I say that because I look them up every time I have to draw them. I try to make it work, but it never quite looks right when I just do it from my imagination. Okay, what about her? She's feeling pretty good. Running with a rapier style. I guess we just don't get to see much of her. In complete profile, we don't get a good view of the character, really. Profile is good if the profile best shows the distinguishing things of that character. But it's not really. If anything, I would rotate the upper body. I'd push this shoulder this way a little bit and bring that other shoulder out a little bit and just rotate that body out. And it would have it like she's turning to look at you. She isn't just turning her head, she's turning her upper body, and her legs could remain there. I know it would take some reworking to do that, but I think it would add a bit more. The dagger, you also might show some other daggers like floating around that dagger. Or like a magic symbol or something. I'm trying to add a bit more visual interest because she's not taking up much. There's not that much visual stuff going on. With that little guy, I don't think you were going for threatening, so I'm just not even going to try to push you there. There's a lot of beautiful stuff going on here. I'm trying to move this around there. Really nice, almost like stencil work. That patterning on the skin, subtle skin tone variations, really good shapes. He is a bit dulled down. I think you could bring some of the values, the lights back into it. Yeah, he's just, everything is in the midtones. I'd bring a bit more color and a bit more contrast into him. I think you were going for what you were going for. And yeah, if I were to change it, I think I would be changing it away from your vision of it. It's one of those cases I really don't want to say much because I don't want to change your vision. We wouldn't be having this curve up at both of the legs. We're still looking down at it. So overall, this should be a downward curve because it's following a cylindrical shape. So that needs to be changing direction with that curve. This might not be hugging him as tight. That's almost like fitted around his waist. This would just be more like hanging straight down and then kind of folding as it gets pulled into the belt area. Yeah. Yep, I'm going to stop there. No, it's good enough for now. Reese. Reese has an Elementalist. We need a blank background. And that would be giving me a better idea of the character. Elven Elementalist, I'm taking it, but we're not getting any magic being used. So, besides, the floating, obviously, the legs gave me problems, Peter, on the previous one. Oh, on the goblin? I think the legs could be adjusted. I would want to sketch out the anatomy on that. I don't have time to go into it right now. I think you could buy it. It's not like, oh, wow, that's definitely off. It's not that sort of thing. There's probably a better variation of it if you want to keep working on it. But I think you could also let it go if you want to move on to something else. Good sense of floating here. She has a kind of an interesting, almost a vampire-esque design to it, with a lot of these pointed tips on things. These are almost like bat wings coming off here. Very pale skin, which nothing wrong with that. I would want to see magic, though. If she is an elementalist, I would want to see some arcane symbols going around her hand, a fire being summoned, anything on that line. Glowing sigils, glowing jewels, something like that. The leotard is a little odd for like a D&D style. It's a bit spacey. I would think about pushing that a bit more to something in more medieval. Leotards weren't necessarily a one-piece leotard. Not a big clothing design of the time, as far as my memory serves. So at least show some stitching lines in it, like some seams where the pieces were sewn together. But I would probably just give her pants. Like, okay, she has this tight top thing, but once it comes down to here, I'd probably just give her regular pants underneath, her leather guards. This is what a vampire would look like in the Zelda universe. Yeah, that would actually be pretty close. Yeah. All right. Tron. No, not Tron. Thon. Thane. I don't know how you say your name. I'm sorry. Thane. That'll be my guess. Okay. Orc Barbarian and Elementalist. He looks unfinished. That would be my first point of order. Is everything is still very rough, but dang, do I like the direction. That dark skin with the black hair, with the war paint, that really stark kind of Conan expression to him. That's a cool looking skull. So I am all for this dude. I just think that he needs to be finished up. You need to go out there, you need to tighten everything up. The metal this is looking really good. The time that you've put into this metal, the way that you've broke it down, you're considering it, it's working well. It's getting too spotty over here. But these two especially are looking very nice. Michael, my bad. I had some magical effects, but I tried to include and focused more on the costume. We definitely bring them back. Yeah, if you don't want to do like fire or ice or something, then even just a solid color of runes or magic symbols would be fine, and that would convey the idea of what's going on. Yep. I'm not sure what these are. Those would need to be clarified. You'd probably clarify that once you got into refining the painting, but yeah, like tusk. Yeah, you need to sell that to me. Right now, everything is like in the same value range, and we need to make sure that each item is in its own proper value range. So like I'm going to say the bones definitely need to be a bit lighter compared to the skin. And then I think this is fur. Maybe it's a really dark fur. That's fine. Elementalist. It's a bit of a fancy Joe. Bird motif going on. We've got some feathers. We have peacock feathers. Yeah, these are... Okay, this is another reason why you need to make sure that any of the magic effects for a project like this are more opaque. And that's because they might put the item that is your image on top of a white background. And if this was printed, these really wouldn't even be visible. That would be so light and so close to white that it really wouldn't even be worth putting in there. So it gets tricky, but as an artist, you have to figure out a way in order to show a glowing light effect without it making it near white. Because if it's put on white, it's going to be invisible. So we have to figure out how to do that, come up with other ways. Maybe like his whole hand gets bright and he's got a darker effect around his hands. Maybe it's like nighttime and stars around his hand, but his hands themselves glow. So there we've got, more opaque, darker colors, but yet we still kind of a glowing effect. Or maybe there's leaves. Maybe his hands start growing green. Then there's like leaves kind of flowing out of his hands. Why? I don't know, some sort of nature power. But it allows you to example the magic through something more opaque. Okay. I think you could even go further with these. We've got a very right lean to everything here. This is going to the right, that's going to the right, that's going to the right, this leg's going to the right. But yet he feels like he's not really moving. I feel like he's just trying to float. So I would probably get this stuff and treat it less like is being blown than it's just kind of flapping as he's hanging there. We might add another one on this side or another two over here. And they're essentially doing the same thing on the opposite side. So it balances out. It looks like he's just being statically hovering there. And everything is sort of coming out. The cloth on each side is coming out on its respective sides. This isn't really adding anything to it, the big sash, because it's not used anywhere else, and it's not flowing behind him. If it went, around here, and then it wrapped around his waist, and then it became part of his tabard, that sort of thing, it would be justified. If it was even, the end of it came up here and it was swirling around him, giving some cool shapes back there, that would be something else too. But as it is, I think it would be better just to remove it. Go ahead and show me a good view of the guy's face and hair, and yeah. Tia. Right. You got a different style here. Yeah, different from most of the people we have. This is interesting. Okay. See, like with this face, with this character, with the hunter, I feel like there's more personhood behind that. There's a real person there. Interesting animal. All right, the lighting's kind of kicking your butt here. I feel like you're referencing some things and then referencing other things, and the things that you're referencing are not coming from the same angle. And it's messing with the consistency in the image. So, okay, I'm digging this. This feels a little weird for her. Like, I'm gonna just take out these fur things. Yeah. Yeah, I would just get rid of those. She can just have fabric hanging down here for sleeves. That's fine. Just give her fabric sleeves. I would double down on this. This is nice. I don't even know that you need fabric sleeves on that, honestly. Bare arms, I think, would even work better for her. She seems like that sort of person. Yeah. I'd get rid of the fabric sleeves. Yeah. And then I'd get rid of that. And we might have like this shirt thing hanging down. It just kind of sticks out there a little bit. So we have a little cast shadow there. I have some of those folds in that thing. Yeah. And that hood is really small, like that barely covers her head. See about giving you some extra fabric there. Make it feel like she could properly cover her head with this thing. The volume on that's not working real well. It's all really close to white. So if we could... Okay, going back to the lighting. We have a cast shadow all along here from this side, which means the light's coming from here. But then on the face, the lighting is coming from not overhead, but front top coming down. And then this leg's definitely shadowed on this side, which means the light's coming from here. So all of these are just kind of lit arbitrarily, and it makes it disjointed. You need to figure out where the lighting is coming from and make it consistent across all of them. Something also to remember is when you have a hood, what is the hood actually covering? And where's the lighting coming from? If the lighting's coming, from anywhere up here, then it's probably going to be shadowing a good deal of the face. Which I think is fine with the hunter. We don't necessarily need to see the eyes. She can be a bit shadowy of a character, that's fine. That sort of thing. Yeah. All right, Elementalist. Yeah, we're losing some of the forms in here. We're just kind of getting a splotchy feel that everything has this same sort of splotchy camouflage sort of thing going on, where it would be better to have larger, simpler gradients. Does anybody in here have that sort of thing? Like, even on this, like, it goes from, you know, more yellowish to a bit darker, a bit warmer. There's gradients all over this, like lighter to darker overall. Each area has distinct light to dark patterns, warmer to cooler patterns. Like this, you know, it gives a real sense of volume. Guys, also, if you have not got this image yet, go get this image for reference. Tyler Jacobson. Bunch of different ones. There's glowy hands. There's magic effects. You got your drow. You got your wizards, paladins. Good example of how to do metal and fabric and flowing capes and tails. He's got it all right there. This is one worth going and finding, downloading. Yeah, that's a good one. Talking about gradients. Gradients work well in this sort of thing, where you're transitioning one color to another color. Amundsen, yeah, he's another guy worth looking at. So, like, if this was all the same green, no, not all the same green, but if this was green, and then it simply transitioned to a different color green as a gradient from, you know, top to bottom, and it not have the same camo-y, you know, effect that's real busy over the whole thing. Yeah. Then you would start applying your, you know, any lighting effects to that. But that would give you a simpler base to be working from. Okay. I think it's getting a bit too busy. That would help a lot. Same thing with the skin tone. The skin tone is getting so light that we can barely make her out against some of the light background. So she has a bit of a purpley, pinky sort of skin tone, which is fine. But let's go in there and actually give her a bit more value to it, darken it a little bit so that it's more visible. Some of this other stuff, it's kind of bronzy stuff, we can make sure it's darker. Is its base value different than the skin? Looks like it's probably naturally a bit darker. If you're going to do this, I probably wouldn't do the whole thing. This is getting pretty busy up here. I'm losing the arm and the head, top of the head. I'm thinking you just do part of it. You do the part up around, you know, behind the head. Then that way it doesn't interfere with understanding the arm and what the hands are doing. We'll just clarify that, and that's, it still gives you the kind of the best of both. There we go. And we take off the so much of the green effect. And if you want green, then you can have, like, you know, seeds or leaves or spores or something coming off. This is also, I don't know. I didn't understand this being hair for a little while, because it's like the hair is super dark here, but then it's immediately like golden light. If the hair remains, you know, the same tone all the way, then I'm going to read that and understand that much easier. And then it turns into a root. Yeah, this isn't working. Like, it's hugging her body like it's alive. I think it's fine. Just give her a big braid of hair. And then you could put like leaves or something kind of, you know, decorating it. But, I mean, you can have that pattern. Or maybe you show like roots coming out of it. But let's not have it like hug her body because it confuses the form. We're trying to bring clarity back into it. All right, troll. Enough on that. I need moving on. This leg is confusing me. Yeah, both of these legs are kind of confusing me. I feel like this this leg is coming at me. Like we got the joint, and then it's coming here, and then it's coming there. But then I don't know what that one's doing. I'm like, where did the shin bone go? That doesn't work. I mean, if it goes back, then it has to be like, oh man, that doesn't even work, because that's too far back. Or it goes back that way, in which case it's got to be like back there. Yeah, you need to rework these legs. Also, this is coming straight at us. Actually, this is curving that way. The leg is curving out that way, but you have the foot completely turned this way. And I mean, you can't actually do that. You can't twist it that far. Like, this foot would need to be coming more like that, if it's the leg is coming this direction. Yeah, I think we have more work to do on that one. The direction, the color, the kind of patterning, I think is fine. The idea that he's holding a tree, I don't know what the spikes are on it though. And basic skulls, I mean, that's kind of a normal thing. These don't really work because likely you're going to see this fairly small. And if these are arrows, that means like a human has to be, like that big. He's really big. Yeah. So I would just take those out because they're going to be so small that it's not even going to be that visible. No. Okay, well, hopefully you find that helpful. You have a lot of good ideas there, but we need to make sure that we're having the accurate anatomy and pose inside of all that. Yeah. And good, consistent lighting, clarity, so things aren't getting lost in the mix on Elementalist, and then make sure that we're going back to proper skeleton posing, and then build the form around it for the troll. Travis. Doing the golem. I'm liking this direction. It's a bit different from the other ones. A lot of the other ones are big and menacing, kind of clumbering guys. This is more like your dungeon skeleton that's barely moving along. And I'm liking it. I could see that being used. The sword needs some work. That's looking wooden. I would at least try to make that look like it was an actual sword. You could even reference something like an old Roman sword, that had a distinct sort of large, thin, large, to the point shape to it, just to change it up a little bit. Or if you're going to do it an old sword, then check out my video on painting metal, and look at the second one, which is like the old brass that has patina on it and is kind of dirty and dark. That would probably work for this guy pretty well. Anything else on this fellow? Yeah, this is another one where I kind of want to see the mask not being directly at me. I think you could probably get it. Sorry, my nose is itchy. You could probably get it and warp it so it has a slight turn to it, and then just paint the little adjustments to make that work. You have a little overlapping with the nose shapes. And that would actually sit better on the object of the neck and the body. I would consider adding a couple of thicker vines that are beefing up that arm, making it look like he could wield that thing. There's a little bit more visual weight to that arm, and maybe even adding a bit more elbow to it. Because when you first look at it, it's just one long, straight shape. And it doesn't feel like there's much of an arm holding it. So if it was, that would be a little more helpful to have a bend at some sort of elbow. And you could have the green vines kind of wrapping it, giving it a little bit more visual strength, right? You got the idea that there's just more stuff there. And also, I'm not a big fan of that angle overall, because it's this, and this all together. If he was going to attack, you could consider having, the sword up here. Sword can be coming back here. Sword can be doing this sort of thing, that sort of thing. I think about any of those would be better than just matching the same angle with all of these legs, the two legs. Yep. Okay. Otherwise, I like your rendering of it. The good combination of the greens and the browns balance out well together. The mask is suitably face-like, but not being really personalized. And that works well. Small details like the little leaves, the spider, the cracks, all go over well. So, good job on that. And the last one we're going to be looking at is Yanis. Okay, well, I might as well just open him in Photoshop. Okay, Yanis is going with the Hunter. Okay, you got a pretty deadly looking fellow here. Again, almost little of the vampire feel to it, especially with the bat crossbow. Okay. Okay, forms. You're still thinking very two-dimensional. that is going to be something that is going to really be holding you back until you can do more study on 3D volumes and lighting 3D volumes. Like this is completely flat. There's no sense of form of anything coming to me or away from me or rounding or curving. So yeah. These are getting better. I still kind of feel like you're just making lines and that this isn't really folding over itself. The metal jaw. I don't know that the metal jaw works. It's a bit. He's looking a bit too villainy. He's got the glowing red eyes and blood vials and a metal jaw and a bat crossbow. I think the metal jaw might just be too much. The other thing about that is that it's not carried out anywhere else. It's not a consistent thing. If it was part of a helmet, if it was part of an armor set, I would understand it as being a piece of armor. Otherwise, I assume that he's replaced his jaw with metal. And it's not a design choice that's carried anywhere. If he had a metal arm from the elbow down, then all of a sudden it changes that context. And go, oh, okay, that's something about this character. Maybe that's a subclass of hunter is like, you know, metallurgy master or something. So I would want to either get rid of that. I'd probably get rid of it. But if you do want to do it, then try to make it more consistent throughout the character. On the whole, you need to spend more time thinking about the volume of what's going on, because that's going to get the right lighting for it. You're going to get more interest out of it. We need to have more colors so you can actually see that. We need to have the sense of volume of what's going on here. Got the chest rounding. Chest coming up here. This is coming out. This is dipping back. There should be lighting changes, right? This looks like this lighting come from the top down because it's casting this shadow, but that's not affecting anything on the upper body. And it's kind of affecting the rest of this. It's kind of coming here and here, but it even looks like you're not committed to it, because you have like drop shadow here, but then a second drop shadow from what? So make sure you're thinking through it. And if something's lit, then it's lit. If something's shadowed, then it's shadowed. Unless you're in a super ambient light, which doesn't look like you're under. Also, you usually don't want to stop the light directly across the eyes. It's unlikely. Also, with this shape, it wouldn't shadow in that shape. It shadows in the shape that follows the thing casting it. So it's going to cast with that shape. And I don't think that these guys would have, I don't think the hunters would have any magic power that would make their eyes glow. So we need to just push them back to more human. I'll buy the fact maybe that he has giving bug eyes. Obviously you need to do some work, and my brush is too big to do that properly. You can almost just darken them, it would be better. Yeah, that would. Trying to break that up. These are getting very monotonous. They're almost all the same angle and the same size. And what you see with folds is that they combine a lot. You'll have folds going different directions. There'll be kind of different shapes. This fold will come over here and fold into that fold. These two will make another one. There'll be one coming across, and then it will split into two. And so that's what I want to do. We want to have like this fun comes up to here, but then that one sort of goes around it, and it folds into that one. Just the more you work with folds, the more you can start kind of getting an idea of how that works. And there's tutorials out there on that. Now I'm also just looking at the stance. He's waist forward, which is usually not a big hero pose. You can be different things, like you could have head and say that we're waist forward. I'll do it like this. That's your, power dude. He's chest forward. And then everything else sort of hangs back. And then you have what this dude has, which is waist forward. Waist is the thing that stuck out the most. And then you could have like, Shaggy, Scooby-Doo. It's like knees forward. I guess this is more, that's back too much. He's just eating a sandwich. We need more Scooby snacks. And so each one of these kind of does something else. I guess you also have head forward, right? Where the head is the thing that's out the feathers. So this is like physicality and confidence, kind of a heroic demeanor. This is a bit more lackluster. This is a bit dopey. And the person with head forwards is going to be somebody that uses, intelligence over brawn. Unless what you're doing with is just a really relaxed pose, which you could also do, and that changes it up a little bit. You can be like he's just kind of got his hips forward and he's chilling, and in that case it actually makes his body bend that way on the upper body. So he's in a very relaxed stance. But I don't feel like that's what you're going for. So I'll probably just put him chest forward and then let the body kind of slim up from there. And follow that sort of shape. And then that can be contrasted against the shape of the the cloak. And this is also somewhere that you could have the cloak coming off of the other side too, on the back side, which would give a bit more feeling of three-dimensionality, give a bit another plane on the image. Could be a bit lighter, you know. It's further away. Fake kind of does the dragon's distance thing. That or black. You could have that over there and have like this one over here. I don't know about the creeping on the ground thing. If he's a hunter and he's out in the woods a lot, you can also think about things like dirt. And he's going to get dirt and grass stains on this. Yep. So, along that way. All right, for those who did not join at the beginning of the episode, quick recap. The announcement, Patreon is delayed until a May release. So essentially what was going to be a March reward is now an April reward. I've been having to put more time into my commissions, and I have some reworks on commissions that I need to do. So those have to get done first, and I've decided I'm going to just push it until the next month. I apologize for the delay, but that's what we're going to do. Patreon is no longer going to be the home to doing the art challenges. So those are going to be removed as a bonus for patrons. If that means that you don't want to be a patron anymore, that's totally up to you. I do still have a cool painting process guide video coming out. $20 patrons still get access to the video library, and you will still get the best rate on all of the new stuff coming out, such as this video. The next challenge will be done by tickets, which will be items for sale out on the Gumroad store. It will include the outline for the challenge, some reference images, a PSD file for submitting, and there will be a limited number. I'm thinking 12 right now. I'll probably put that up tomorrow afternoon at some point. There will be 6 available for US, 6 available for non-US international. The next challenge is my misspelt solemn. Solemn, there we go. Solemn offering, which is a illustration towards a realistic side vertical image of showing a character offering an item to the Dryad Queen. And it should be in a beautiful, sort of almost throne-like natural setting. She should be semi-humanoid or feminine in form, but made of tree stuff. And try to bring in the narrative of the scene. Who is this person? What are they bringing her? We will have 4 weeks on that challenge, 2 for the sketch, 2 for the final. And I'll probably get to spend a bit more time on each one of those, since there will be a less than half of as many that we went through this time. And congrats to everybody. We passed 2,000 members on the Facebook group. And the commission poster is available on the YouTube store. I'm not even sure how to tell you to go find it. I think if you go to my webpage on YouTube, there might be somewhere that says like store or merchandise. And maybe you can click through and find it. I don't know. It's new. I haven't used it before. But yeah, it's a really cool retro commission flowchart poster that I made a couple of years ago. If you pick it up, it helps support the channel, and I think you really will enjoy it. It's got some good information on it, and it's kind of fun. So that's it. If you have more questions, please come out to the Facebook group. Pretty much anyone is welcomed. We have a couple of people that spam, but we usually get rid of those pretty quick. But yeah, come out to swatches.group is the address. Just ask to join. I try to go out there every morning and accept everybody. And yeah, get your answers to your questions. Also a good place if you're wanting to find some resources. Just put a post out there. Hey, I'm looking for resources on how to draw this, or anybody have any good, reference photos for this thing? Then use the crowdsourcing to help you get better. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think that is it. So I will be out on Facebook. Okay, I'm going to also pause and say, I do get correspondence from a number of you, and I don't always respond. I'm sorry. I wish I could. It's getting to the point now I can't realistically respond to everyone. And in the past, that's never been an issue because I never had enough people in the community for that to become an issue. But it is now. And I want you to know I don't mean anything by it. I don't mean to make you feel like you're not wanted, that you can't try to approach me, that I don't even care, because some of you are in a situation you really do kind of need some answers. But I'm in a position where I've got 50,000 people on YouTube. I've got 2,000 people on the Facebook group. I've got my own art page with thousands of followers out there. I have my personal Facebook page. I have my DeviantArt account. I have my ArtStation account. I have my Instagram account. I have my busy email account. I have my other personal email account. I could pretty much just work full time answering correspondence if I decided to do that. Unfortunately, I have to, put my time where I can put it, and that's why I encourage you guys to, try to get feedback from, the rest of you. If it is something about my stuff that only I can answer, I do try to get to that because I know that you can't find the answer anywhere else. But try not to be offended. I get to what I can get to. That's just the situation we're in. But thank you everyone for joining. So Patreon. If you still want to get the Patreon reward and haven't yet, I told you previously that the deadline was the 1st of this month, but it's not. It's going to be the last day of this month since we're delaying it. So if you still want to get in, then do so. Patreon is growing, and thank you everyone for joining, and I will give you an update on that as it goes along with the project. But I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for watching the video, sticking around. Until you see you next time, keep drawing.